Well, welcome everybody. It is, always so special just to be together. And let's just take a moment and let's welcome our Lake Worth campus, our Boynton campus, and our Church at Home campus once again. Let's welcome all. Love you guys. Once again, we're just one church that meets in all of these locations. It's always kind of a cool thing to, when I get the chance to go to the different campuses on a Sunday when I'm not speaking, I'll go to all three a lot. And it's crazy because right now what's happening in this room is happening in a room, a few miles that way and a few more miles that way, is that all of these people are gathered together, worshiping God, experiencing God, and teams serving God. And it's such a beautiful thing. And so I'm really excited about today's message and to kind of give you a little bit of expectation of what to expect. I wasn't going to speak on this, but we just had like a staff retreat where we take all of our staff up to Orlando for a few days, and we speak life into them and also encourage them and thank them for what an amazing team they are. By the way, you guys have an amazing group of staff leaders. Let's give them a hand that pour their life and soul out into everything that happens across all the ministries here. And so we do this every year, and I gave this message, and it was it was so beautiful to see the impact that it had. I want to not just share it with our staff, I wanted to share that with you guys. So I'm really excited about it because today I want to encourage you in a way that I believe can help transform your marriage, your business, your leadership, your parenting, your relationships. Like the level of impact of what we're going to talk about today, if you apply it, it's massive. And so I'm really excited about it because today what I want to do is I want to talk about the power of encouragement and the cost of criticism. And so we're gonna walk through this, and at the end, listen, if you're watching from Church at Home, don't tune out, because I'm gonna give everyone like an encouraging challenge that I think is gonna be so powerful. It was in my family's life, and we're gonna share that at the end. And so today, what I wanna do is I wanna start out by looking at what Jesus teaches us about encouragement and about criticism. I think it's so powerful because he kind of opens up our eyes into why at times this can be such a struggle and why we've got to talk about it. And so one day he's talking about this, and listen to what he says about us, human nature. He goes, so why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank of your own eye? For how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you'll be able to see clear to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Now here's what I want us to understand today, and just something that Jesus reveals. It talks about how sometimes we struggle with self-awareness. Anybody ever be in a relationship with someone who has issues they don't see? I'm just curious. Anybody? And those of you that aren't raising your hands because you're sitting next to the person with the issues that they don't see, and you don't want to get in trouble, right? So at some point, Jesus is talking about, hey, human beings have a struggle with self-awareness at times, but there's something else that Jesus reveals that's very powerful. And here's what Jesus reveals about you and me and about other people in relationship with you and me, and that's this, is that we have this unbelievable ability to see a speck, a small little flaw in someone else. That what is natural to us, I want you to see this, is that we tend to see people's weaknesses more than their strengths. They're negative rather than positive, and they're wrong that they do rather than they're right they do. That there is something birthed in humanity, and I want you to see this struggle because it's real. There's something birthed in every one of you and everyone you're in a relationship with. That there's this natural ability, that we have this innate gift to look at every flaw and every crack and every little thing that someone does wrong. And so Jesus, hey, be careful. Why? Because you've got this natural ability to see the specks, the small little things in people's lives. And guess what that makes it easier to do? It makes it easier to what? To criticize. So why in the world is it so natural for us to criticize and unnatural for us to encourage? Well, why is Jesus having to bring out this information to us to go, hey guys, this is an area that we need to grow on? Now the first is this, is that by nature, human beings are selfish. So the reason why we point out issues that other people we are in relationship with is because their issues impact us. Right? So if you're here and you have a spouse you're in a relationship with that has a spending issue or problem, okay, guess what happens? You can see that more clearly because their spending impacts you because you share bank accounts, right? If you have an employee that doesn't follow through on things and get things done, as a boss, what do you see that? Why? Because their shortcoming impacts your company or your business or your raise or your bonus, right? And so if your brother does something or your sister does something or whatever it might be, if someone's sick all the time and is never feeling good but you're in a relationship with them and now all of a sudden you're carrying the weight they should be carrying, or they can't fulfill their needs that you have in the relationship because there's always an issue in their lives, what happens is that there's part of us that notice other people's issues we're in a relationship with. Why? Because their issues impact us. And that's true, by the way. And so what happens is we try to help them get better. By what? By pointing out what they're not doing right. Here's the second reason we are, is because it's not just we're selfish, but there's also pride involved, ego. Do you know that when other people do worse than you, you feel better about yourself? Like there's something in us that what do? We have this natural tendency to compare ourselves to other people. And if everyone around us is doing better than us, we feel bad. And everyone else is doing worse than us, we feel good. This is why if you were to go and they do studies of this, if you look at a celebrity and they do something good and they count the clicks, do you know if something happens in that same celebrity and they melt down or mess up, do you know that the clicks go up 1,000%? 1,000%. Why? Because we love it when we see other people that are doing worse than us, because it can make us feel better. Now here's the other reason I want you to see, because I want you to understand something, that Jesus is brilliant and Jesus knows what he's talking about right here. And I love this about God, because he doesn't need statistics to kind of prove himself. He created you, he designed you, he knows you. But I want you to read some statistics. I want you to understand something, that we are hardwired to criticize. We are not hardwired to encourage. That there's a reason why this is so natural. In fact, studies show that the average person gets 6 negative comments to every 1 compliment that they get in life. Why? Because here's the thing, you're gonna learn your brain is actually hardwired to point out weaknesses and flaws in other people. Negatives in your brain retain 90% memory versus positives. And maybe it's a self-protection thing that, like, like they use the example was, hey, if you miss 1 lion, you're dead in the wilderness, right? So there's something about seeing things that are bad or negative can harm you that your brain just memorizes. So 90% you just retain it more. And this is, guess what? That means your life actually feels worse than it actually is. That your brain has a natural way to just see things in a negative perspective. 88% of complaints, listen, exaggerate frequency. See, you feel like that things are worse than they actually are. You're not doing this intentionally. It's that their issues, the little speck in their eye, it always feels worse than it actually is. Look at this. Arguments are replayed 7 times more than resolutions in your mind. So when you're in a relationship, right, and you ever wonder, why are they always mad at me? Why can I never do things right? It's because every time you have an argument, that's replaying 7 arguments to every 1 thing that you said good. In other words, there's a battle that we have that's uphill. Negativity bias in relationships causes 1 negative event to outweigh multiple positives, requiring 5 to 20 good interactions to balance a single argument or criticism. So what I want us to understand is there's this something in you and me that just sees easier their flaws than their strengths, their weaknesses rather than what they're good at, right? What they do wrong, rather do right. Our brain is literally wired to remember this and deal with all this, and it just replays over and over and over again. And so what happens naturally is we tend to criticize people on a 6-to-1 basis. And so what takes place is many people that are walking through life are what? We are constantly being reminded of what we aren't and what we're not doing. And we're rarely reminded of who we are and what we can be and the things that we're doing right. In fact, let me show you some more cost, because this is just the reality, but what's the cost to this criticism? In other words, as you begin to go, well, I see it, so I say it, right? And they do this wrong, and I'm just trying to make them better, because all of us want to make the people in relationship with better. We want our employees better, because when they're better, our company does better. We want our spouses better, because when they're better, our marriage is better. We want our kids better, because when they're better, we feel better and we're happier for them and they do better and we love them. And so there's this natural tendency to go, hey, I see the flaw, so I'm pointing it out. But what's the cost if we're not careful and we keep focusing on the specks in people's lives? And here's the cost. I want you to see some of these things, right? 1 hostile comment produces 24 hours of a cortisol, a stress hormone. Spikes, slowing wound healing by 40%. Your criticism of someone not only produces stress, impacts their sleep, their focus, how they feel, but actually begins to break down their body. According to the Gotham Institute, of a 40-year study of 3,000 couples, listen to this, a couples with a positive to negative ratio, okay, a compliment to a criticism, below 0.8 to 1, that's almost 1 to 1, by the way. Look at this. Forecast divorce with a 94% accuracy. When you get to that point in your life where you so see the speck in an individual, that's what you see over and over and again, and then you speak that speck over them over, that when you begin to simply go one compliment to one encouragement, here's what we found. This is over 3,000 couples over 40-year study. He goes that 94% of those people that go that route end up broken and divorced. That literally the cost of criticism literally could be your family, your relationships, your marriage, your company. Like it's such a huge thing. This is one of those, this is a 40-year study. This is not some, this is a massive thing. That, hey, when you start just seeing specks and speaking specks and saying specks, then what begins to happen is it literally begins to destroy your family. Here's some more costs. Let's look at this. First of all, cost of criticism. Workplace engagement, productivity goes down minus 31%. So you think you're helping them, but you're actually defeating them. Here's why. Because it decreases motivation to actually strive to get better by 40%. Stress reduction, 26%. Your confidence goes down 40%. You're persistent. What does that mean? Well, I'm so tired of hearing how bad I am. Maybe I really am. I can't do it anymore. Why should I continue to try? So what you're trying to do is produce something good in them, but you're actually causing them to stop and stay where they're at. Anxiety goes up 22%. Relationship stability goes down minus 500%. And what I want us to understand is, and every once in a while we got to remind of this, Jesus knew what he was talking about. Like there is this part of us that is just naturally wired to see the speck, to say the speck, to speak the speck, to repeat the speck, to write the speck in text, to remind the speck of the speck over and over and over and over again. And what we don't actually realize is we're destroying our families, we're destroying our employees, we're destroying our productivity, our success, our bodies are broken, our relationships are broken, all because why? Because you're not doing what Jesus said. Be careful, because it's so easy to see the speck. And we gotta be really careful. So what do we do? I want you to see the opposite of this. Let me show you what begins to happen in the power of encouragement. Like what happens when we actually encourage people, right? Marital satisfaction rises by 80% in couples who express gratitude or encouragement. So like all of a sudden people go, we're with each other, but we don't really enjoy each other, I'm not passionate about this person. 80% increase when we actually start speaking not just the speck, but what they do right. A 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative interaction increases the likelihood of a happy marriage. So what they found in this study is that when you actually go 5-to-1, by the way, exact same thing, Harvard Business Review in business as well. So when you, as a leader, we need to make sure there is a 5-to-1 ratio coming out of our mouth that's speaking encouragement to criticism. Sometimes we need to correct. What he's saying is, what the statistics are saying is, we just need to make sure we're actually on encouraging far more than we're correcting. Employees that receive frequent encouragement are 31% more productive. So all of a sudden, what you thought you'd make them better by pointing out their weakness, but when you point out their strength, they actually get better. 44%, this is Harvard Business, by the way, 44% of higher success rate for teams with encouraging leaders. You know, in the old school, I'll beat you up and put you down. Because what they found is that's actually not the most effective way to get the best out of people. The most effective way to get the best out of people is actually encouragement. Parenting, encourage children to develop 30% higher self-esteem. They believe about themselves, which directly impacts what challenges they will go after and things they will do, and a 23% academic performance. And what I'm trying to say, and I could just list so many statistics, but I'm trying to say this is really simple, is that encouragement is always a better way to change someone's life, transform them, and to make them better than criticism is. Except for what happens in our life is that criticism is always just more natural. Why? Because we just see specks far easier. Like the whole thing Jesus was talking about is that there's this whole person. And imagine they're 150 pounds, they're 5'10", and they're thinking of the whole, and all we're focusing on, what we see naturally, is not everything else about them. It's the one singular thing, or the speck that's in their eye. And what I want us to understand, and it's so important to see, and we gotta get this, is that there is a cost to criticism, and there's a reward for encouragement. See, I know that every one of you right now in your heart, you want to be a great leader in business. In other words, you want to be the kind of leader or the owner or CEO or Salesforce, whatever you're leading. You always want to bring the best out of them. I know you. Why? Because even if you're just selfish, by bringing the best out of them, it actually helps you. And the more your employees perform, the better it is for your company, for your promotion, right? It is. And the same thing with a spouse. Even if you're selfish, the better your husband becomes, the higher they go, the better your wife becomes. Guess what? You're gonna get one of the greatest rewards of that. So it is in your best interest to help be able to make your husband better, to help get your wife to become everything that God created them to be. As a parent, once again, what do you want? You want more than anything, you want your children to flourish. And you want them to grow, and guess what? You want this for them. See, all of us, I understand, we want to help people grow and get better. And what happens is so many of us have bought into the lie that the way people get better is by pointing out what they're not doing right, by correction versus encouragement. I just want to tell you today that encouragement is the most powerful thing. That one of the most powerful things that you can do to help your team, your marriage, your relationships, your children flourish in your life. So here's what I want to do today. It's really simple. And we're going to walk through 3 things that you can do to speak life in, to increase productivity, satisfaction, help your relationships, help your marriage, help your kids flourish, help all of these things. And there are 3 things, because it's not natural, right? So there's 3 things I want to encourage you to do this week. In the end, we're going to do an exercise together. And they're really simple. Here's the first thing I want to challenge you to do, and it's this. We need to see the positive. What does that mean? It means that we're naturally seeing the speck, right? Like what's natural is it. So what do we have to do? We have to discipline ourselves to see the positive. Now, what they a lot of times what they call negativity bias. So there's this element of humanity they find that when you see the speck in someone, what they don't do right, what they don't do well, an area of growth. That we as humanity tend to dwell on that, right? 7 times, it thinks 90% of your brain is the negative. So this is how we're wired. And so what happens over time is we begin to dwell on their speck so much, we begin to see them as their speck. You ever see people define people like that? My ex is, my dad is, my boss is. What are we doing? We take the thing that they are not doing well, and then what happens over time is we only see them by that thing. And so my ex is a liar. My boss is an arrogant jerk who doesn't listen. My kids are just rebellious. My parents are idiots, whatever, And so the point is that we so see the speck that what happens is we stop seeing anything else but that. And we begin to find them by their worst thing. Here's what I want to encourage you about life and people. Can I tell you that people are not ever simply good or bad? That all people have both. Now, some people have a little more good, and some people have a little more bad. That is actually true, 100%, right? And some people, it's easier to see the positive and good, and some people it's a little harder. But here's what I want you to see, that everyone you are in a relationship with has some good in them. And what we have got to do is we've got to figure out how to see that good. We've got to figure out and begin to seek the Lord and look at them and go, God, help me see not just the speck, but help me see the good. Jesus modeled this, by the way. His cousin, we call him John the Baptist, okay? John the Baptizer. And John was in prison, and God had not done what John expected God to do. And Jesus had not done what John expected Jesus to do. And so here John is, this crisis of faith. He's questioning. He sends some of his disciples to Jesus to basically say, hey, Jesus, I'm not sure you're the Messiah I thought you were. Because I'm in a prison right now for doing the right thing, and the king who's evil is sitting on a throne, and it doesn't make sense how a good God could let something bad or unfair take place. And I'm just kind of wondering, why aren't you here? Why are you teaching people and why are you giving them food and leaving me in prison? And John is in a crisis of faith. And so he sends his disciples, hey, Jesus, are you the one that was really supposed to come, or should we expect someone else? And this is what he's saying. Jesus, I'm not even sure I believe in you. Like I'm so frustrated right now that you're not meeting my expectation. And so he's questioning Jesus. Here's what I want you to see. I want you to see that after this, look at Jesus' response to him, okay? I tell you the truth, of all who have ever lived, none is greater than John the Baptist. What did Jesus do? That even in the midst of his failures and struggle, he still chose to see the good. Do you know that you could still choose to see the good in the people that have done very bad things to you? And can I just give you a little side note here? The more you define the person that wounded you by simply what they've done wrong, the harder it will be to ever forgive them. And the more you define them as simply the person that lied and hurt and destroyed your family, destroyed your life and got you fired, and all you see is today, can I just tell you something? They will own rent in your head. You will battle with bitterness. You will battle with conversations of rebuking them in the shower. It will torment you like unforgiveness, because the more we define someone as evil, it's harder to justify forgiving them. And so what I want to encourage you is what does Jesus do? He looks at John and there's flaws. But he also sees in John, well, John is a man of faith. John is a man of conviction. John is a man that did great things. John is a man that will come around and believe in you. Like John is, of all the people born in the grace, what does Jesus do? He chooses to see it. And this is what I want you to see. You can choose to do the same thing. Like I remember there's this individual that just did some things to really hurt me, and it was just tough. And I remember there was a season where every conversation about this person, all I would do is just focus on everything they did wrong and what a bad person they were. And after a while, like I said, it was harder to forgive, and it was easy just to put them in this category as evil. And what I realized over time is that even in this person's life, there was also good things. And so I started like in my prayer, because I was battling with forgiveness, I started praying, okay, hey, you know what, this person's a great parent. This person's not only a great parent, I've seen this person do kind things for people. Hey, I've seen this person go through a lot of things and persevere. So what am I doing? I'm making the choice to not focus on the speck. Even though that speck felt like a plank, I said, you know what, here's what I'm doing. I'm gonna choose not to define them. I'm gonna choose to see the good. Can I tell you something? You cannot be in a relationship with someone without seeing the good if you wanna treat them like Jesus treats them. Like you can't. Like if you wanna lead like Jesus led, and you wanna do this and you wanna bring out the best, so let's say someone you're in a relationship with, not someone that just hurt you, you can't do without seeing the good. So you're going to have to choose to see the good. You're going to have to choose to see it. And there was this person in my life, and I remember this because that growing up in high school, you guys didn't know me. Thank God, actually. I'm very glad there was no video evidence or social media of my high school years, because my kids would use it against me. And I was literally known as the black sheep of the Baugh family. That was literally my reputation, by the way, that I got. And I earned it very well, just for the record. And so I remember growing up that you know what? No one ever really spoke into my life positive things. My mom and dad, other than mom and dad, no one did. You know why? Because there really wasn't a lot there. But there was this one woman, her name was Barb, and she was like another mother to me. And the one thing she would always speak into my life is she would always say things like, hey, Scott, you've got such a great heart. And hey, one day you're gonna be the one to take care of your mom, which by the way is interesting, because that's what I'm doing right now. And so it's like, I look at that, what I'm saying is that she had this ability, listen to this, to look through all of the bad and all of the issues, and she could see, she found something good in me. There wasn't a lot, but what was there, she found, and she spoke in her life. Which leads us to the second thing. The first thing is you need to see the good or see the positive. And here's the other thing that matters, that's what? You need to say the positive. Here's what I want you to understand that's so important. Your feelings cannot encourage people. Your feelings cannot increase productivity by 30%. Your feelings do not increase marital satisfaction by 80%. Your feelings do not increase persistence. Your feelings cannot make up for the 7 arguments, for the one argument they had. Your feelings can't transform anyone. Your feelings can't bring life. The only way that you can actually bring the good out of someone is not how you feel about them, it's when you actually take those feelings and you express them. Do you know how many times we go through life and we see something positive and then we don't actually share it? I love this about Jesus, because Jesus didn't just say, he just like, hey, I love you. He goes, hey, you guys know I love you. I'm gonna die for you. So it's kind of obvious. Do you know that Jesus actually also expressed these things? I want you to look at some of these things. Look at this. When Jesus saw this guy Nathaniel, now just for the record, Nathaniel had just questioned Jesus' hometown. He's like, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Because Jesus is from Nazareth. So he's questioning Jesus. And what does Jesus speak into him? Look at this. When Jesus saw Nathanael approaching, he said of him, here truly is an Israelite, in whom there is no deceit. What did Jesus say? I saw it, okay? Do you think Nathanael has some flaws? Absolutely, we all do. But what did he go? I'm gonna see that good, then I'm gonna say that positive good thing. And you know what I know about Nathanael? Nathanael, you're a man of character. And I'm gonna speak this over your life, because I want you to know I see inside of your heart. I know you're not perfect, and no one is, but here's what I know about you. You're a person that I can trust and entrust with. You're a person that will do the right thing when things are hard. You are a man of character. Truly, you are that kind of man. What, Jesus didn't feel it? alone. What did he do? He said it. You see the same thing with a Roman individual who has come to Jesus and had faith. And look what he says. I truly tell you, I have not found anyone of Israel with such great faith. Hey, you've got this gift of faith. You just trust God in a supernatural way. And here, because of your faith, look, I'm gonna heal your child. I'm gonna do these things. And so what I want us to understand is that we need to make sure that we don't just feel it, that we say it. In fact, I have this saying like this, and here's the saying I say, and that's this. If you see it, say it. Let's all say it together, okay? On the count of 3, ready? 1, 2, 3. If you see it, say it. It's not that common. I remember, I'll never forget, there's this person that I worked with, and I worked with this person for years, and you know, we didn't have like really bad relationship or anything, but there was a lot of corrective conversations that had taken place. And as I worked with this individual, I wasn't sure what this individual thought of me. Now, we weren't enemies, and it wasn't like really toxic or bad, but it also wasn't really great or good. And I just didn't know. I've been so many times I've had to correct and step in, and there's a lot of differences in personalities, and so I was like, man, I kind of had this feeling, this person like, you know, put up with me, and we weren't enemies, but we certainly didn't respect me or love me. And I'll never forget this moment because this person stood up in front of people and started sharing with them what I meant to them. And started sharing how they had watched me go through some really hard times and were proud of how I had handled it, and started talking about my character in private and started saying all these encouraging things. And I'll never forget it because I was like, first of all, I was blown away. I was like, why? Here's the first thing. I was shocked because I never ever felt that person felt that about me. I was lifted up and encouraged. And all of those positive things they spoke about, it just made me want to be more and more of that kind of character. It transformed the relationship that we had. Why? Not because this person felt those things, because those person said those things. It's so important, guys. If you see it, say it. Do you know how many times in relationships, by the way, we don't speak these things in encouragement to those we love the most? A lot of times my wife and my 2 sons, Scotty and Tom, will go to lunch, and one of the things that I'll do, because they're like teenage boys, and you know, their favorite answer, how was your day? Good. How's your life? Good. Okay. So it's like pulling teeth to get like conversations, unless they're talking about like Marvel or Legos or video games, and all of a sudden they don't shut up. But so one of the things that we'll do is I'll be driving to lunch, and I'll look at the boys and I'll say, hey guys, starting with you, Scotty, your oldest, go to Tommy, listen to me. I want you to share 3 things you love about your mom. And it's amazing because like they'll express these things, and they'll put their arm around their shoulder, and my wife will hold their hand, and it's amazing, but we don't do it naturally. Like they don't just walk up and just say it. We have to create opportunity to do it. There are moments with my wife, Raquel. She came over here actually to the West Palm Beach campus a couple weeks ago. And she was sitting there, and I was actually playing pickleball. And she's like, hey, I've got a couple people with the prayer team. We're just gonna walk the campus and pray over the campus while I'm playing pickleball. So I feel like I should have been there with her, but it was really fun playing pickleball. All right, so what did I do? I tell her, hey, Raquel, listen, I want to say proud of you. Thank you so much for doing this. Why? Because there's no fanfare here. There's no social media. No one sees her. My wife, if you know her, she's very quiet. She doesn't like to get on platforms very much. She loves to pray. That's her ministry. And so she's just walking the campus. She did the same thing with the Boynton campus. And she's just here at night. No one sees her. No one does it. But guess what? I saw her. God saw her. So what do? My job, if I want to help bring this gift out of her, what do? I just can't see it. I've got to say it. The last encounter night, we were at our Boynton campus, and she was exhausted. We're in the middle of a lot going on with getting a house almost in the next couple weeks, thank God, and we're just kind of in this crazy season. And so during encounter night, people were coming forward for prayer, which is just beautiful. We have one coming up in a couple weeks, love it. And the whole front of Boynton was filled, and there wasn't enough prayer team to actually pray for all the people with needs. And she was exhausted, sitting there, was gonna go home early, and then next thing you know, I look, she just steps out of her seat, she goes, stands in line, just starts praying for people. So you know what I do? I took a picture, I snapshot that picture, and I sent it to her. Hey, so proud of you, love to see you pray. What am I doing? I see it, I say it. Like if I want her to be the best she can be, and what do we have to do? We've got to be the best and the greatest encouragers that we can be. I will say this to like my dad. My dad is 86, by the way, and struggles with Parkinson's. If you see him, if you shake his hand, he's already shaking, so you can only just reach his hand. I was there. By the way, it's okay, we joke about things in our family. That's how we deal with things, okay? So he's not offended by it, he's laughing, watching this right now. All right, but my father is just an amazing man. And if you haven't met him, you need to meet him. And he's 86, can barely walk, and yet he usually will spend every Sunday, he'll be here, actually he's gonna be at this campus in a few minutes, but, and he loves to just go out and greet people. And then every new person, almost every new person that goes to our Lake Worth campus, he is called for years personally. And he calls them, and I'll walk in the house there, he's got a whole list, he's talking with them, wants to meet them, praying with them. And it's amazing because we get story after story. Hey, how'd you go to the church? Well, Baugh called me, and Baugh checked in on me. And Baugh, because he just loves people so well and modeled it so well. And so when I get that story, I'll call Dad. Hey, Dad, guess what? I just talked to so-and-so. They said they were so moved. And tears will come down his face as he finds joy. Why? Because if you see it, you gotta say it. See, he's making a difference in people's lives, but if no one will take the time to encourage and lift up, he doesn't feel that strength to keep doing it and keep pushing through all the physical battles he has to do what he actually has to do. It's the same thing with Scotty and Thomas. Like, one of the things I love to do is I love to encourage them, but also do it publicly. Now, sometimes I'll tell a story about their mischiefs, and that's part two. But I also want to see the good things. And so when my sons went over to my mom's house last year, she wasn't feeling well and going through a lot. And so they went over together, and they basically decorated their whole house, up in the attic, trees, all the stuff, just out of a volunteer love for grandma, not for money, not because they had to, because they wanted to. So what do? I share that all the time. Hey, I'm so proud. Guess what they did? Guess what Scotty did? Guess what Tommy did? What am I doing? Because if I want to bring the best out of them, then I need to be the one speaking life into them the most. I need to remind, because 6 to 1 in life, people are criticizing them and pointing out the specks. So as a father, what do? I want to be the dad that speaks life into them. So if you see the potential, if you see the gifts, if you see the strengths, speak it. If you see it, say it. If you see it, say it. If you see it, say it. Like we gotta get in the habit of expressing it, because your feelings do not build anyone up, only when you use words. And here's the third one and the final one, and that's this, is you also need to listen to this. You need to speak the potential. Is what I'm saying is that sometimes all we will do is we will only speak towards their actions or where they are, not reminding people of who they actually can be. And one of the things I love about God, and this is so important, is that God, all throughout the scripture, doesn't simply speak to where we're at, but he reminds us over and over and over with him what and who we could become. He speaks, listen to this, the potential of a person, not simply who they are. And I want to show you some examples of this. Have you ever noticed in the Bible how God changes the names of people? Now, why? See, in our culture, names don't mean much. It's just your name is your name, that's period. But in a Jewish context, your name was connected to your identity. So your name was actually how people saw you. So when God is changing someone's name, he's changing their identity. He's actually changing how people will speak into them every time they call their name. They're actually speaking this identity into their life. And so what you would discover in the Bible, God goes to a guy named Abram, which means exalted father, and he goes, I'm gonna change the name to Abraham, which means the father of multitude or father of nations. He takes the word Sarai, which means my princess, like individual princess, and I'm gonna change your name to Sarah, which means princess to many, to multitudes kind of a thing. Like, hey, you're not just gonna be a princess to one person, you're gonna be like a princess to a nation. And so God changes the name of people. You know this with Peter, where his name was Simon, son of Jonah, as how it was defined. Jonah, the son of Jonah literally means dove or son of dove, and Simon means God hears. So God hears, and son of dove, he changed his name to what? Peter, which means the rock, signifying strength. And so what are you seeing? What is God doing? God is changing the identity. He's speaking potential in their life. In fact, look at what he says to Peter. I want you to see this. Jesus replied, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, someone who God sees and answers, and son of a dove. For this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are now what, Peter? I'm speaking to you strength. And on this rock I'll build my church, and the gates of hell will not, once again, overcome it. So here's what I want you to see that we miss. It isn't that God spoke and changed their names. What I want you to see is when he did it. Do you know that he changed the name of Abraham, from Abram to Abraham, the father of many nations, before he was a father to one? And he changed the name of Sarah from Sarai to Sarah, the princess of nations, before she was a mother of one. And he changed Peter's name, listen to this, with full knowledge. Hey, you're gonna be this rock. And yet Jesus actually would tell Peter just moments later, hey, Peter, I know that you're gonna deny me 3 times. And so I'm gonna call you Peter, even though you haven't lived up to that name yet. I'm gonna speak into your life because I know it's who you can become. So even though Peter, I know, even though but after I change your name, I'm gonna ask you to pray for me. And instead of praying for me, you're gonna fall asleep and you're gonna do that 3 times. And then after that, you're gonna deny me 3 times, call down curses on me. You're gonna run away from ministry and me and you're gonna quit. All of these things are true, Peter, but guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna speak into your life, not who you are, but who you will be. And I'm gonna call you the rock, even though you're right now not living up to it. Can I tell you something? There is so much power. There is so much power on speaking into people, not just who they are, but who they can be. God does it, and God did it because God understood the power in us that we have this tendency to live up to or down to how we see ourselves. And if we can see ourselves with our potential, this is what God can do in me. By the way, we're masterpieces. This is what God can do. You're the temple of the Holy Spirit. This is what God can do, and you have the fruit of the Spirit, the Holy Spirit living in you. This is if you can see who you can be, it helps you actually get there. Just like that woman Barbara I was telling you about who spoke into my life before anyone else. She didn't just see it, she didn't just say it, but she spoke something that wasn't there yet. And now all these years later, who's the one that is the primary caretaker of my mom and dad? It's me. The very words she spoke when I was 15 years old, all these years later, I'm living them out. There is just power. You wanna make them better? You want them to grow? And stop pointing out everything they're doing wrong and start reminding them of who they can be. I do this with my boys all the time. I say this about my oldest son, and I speak it to his life. There probably isn't 3 or 4 days that go by that I don't speak this into his life. And one of the things I say about my oldest son is, I say, Scotty, you have one of the most beautiful hearts I've ever seen in a human being. By the way, before he was born, and I tell him this, I would put my hands on my wife's belly and I would pray over Scotty and I would say to him, God, just give him a compassionate heart. I don't know why I prayed that prayer like that, but I just God, give him a compassionate heart. And you know what, since he's been a child, I remember him being at Chick-fil-A and this little girl's crying, he's probably 2 years old, and he takes his ice cream cone, which he had slobbered all over, and he looks and he just hands it to this girl crying just to help her. I remember, and he was like probably 8, and he'd been saving money, loved Legos, and there was a missionary from our church, and their kid loved Legos, but they had no money. And I remember him going into his piggy bank and taking the $100 he had saved for Legos and handing it to this individual he actually used it to buy a Lego and then gave this Star Wars Lego to this missionary's kid. No one asked him to do it. He's like 8 years old. He just has that heart. And what I'll do is I'll speak this into his life over and over again. I'll remind him, hey buddy, you got one of the most beautiful hearts I've ever seen in a human being. But listen to this, God gave you that gift. Daddy's prayed this over since you were born. But listen, you've got to cultivate it. Like God gave you that gift, but if you're not careful, you can take that gift, and if you're not careful, you can become selfish, or you're not careful, you can do it. So you gotta fight for this gift, but it's in you, and this is what you are. You're gonna help so many people. You have and to this day, he's such a kind, compassionate, he's at grandma's house every day. He's doing chores for them, helping grandma and grandpa. He has this amazing gift, but guess what? I'm speaking that into his life. Listen to this, even when he's not fully living it. Because my job as a father is not just to remind him who he is, but remind him who he can be. I say the same thing with Thomas, and I say this over and over again. Thomas, listen, you're such a man of character. You do what's right. Now he's a teenage boy. Do you think he ever does something wrong? But I still remember, we were at a theme park, and I'm not proud of this, and just for the record, and there was a moment where someone had an extra fast pass, but we weren't supposed to use it. But I didn't want to wait an hour on the ride, and Tommy's there, and hey Tommy, listen, we're just gonna grab that and scan that person's band and go into the ride, and let's go do this. And I'm so excited, we're just running in, and he looks at it and goes, Daddy, I just don't feel comfortable doing that. At that moment, I felt that big, by the way. I'm like, dang it. What did you get integrity for? Get it after the park. And he's only allowed to be one time that I know of him his whole life. Like he's like, I can trust him. And he has this unbelievable ability to push through. He has a drive to do things well. And I go, buddy, you're gonna be successful because you know what you do? You won't give up and you just keep on. You wanna make things great. And I just speak it over his life over and over again. Do you think they always live up to those two things? But I remind them, this is who you can be. This is how God wired you to be. You see, what we need to understand is the power of speaking these things. See, what does the scripture say about you? What's the truth? For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do the good things he planned. What is God doing? He goes, you're a masterpiece. Do you think all of you are a masterpiece today? What is God saying? I'm reminding of you who you can be. And I'm speaking into your life. Here's my challenge to you today. Be the kind of person that sees the good, speaks the good, and brings out the good in others. Because right now there are people all around you that are beat up, that have lost drive and motivation, that don't see themselves as a masterpiece. And you know what's happening all around? People are living down to how they see themselves. And what God has given us, and I want you to see this in this verse, it's so important, what is that God has given us a calling as a church, a calling as fathers and husbands and wives and mothers and business leaders and sales leaders and coaches, and he's given us this ability. Here's what we're called to do. And let us consider how may we spur one another towards love and good deeds. Drive people to the good that God created me, not giving up on meeting together as some are in habit of doing. But what? What's that word? Louder. But encouraging one another all the more as you see the day approaching. So here's what I want to put into practice this week. After we shared this at staff, we broke up into teams all over this house. We had like 70 of us staying in one house. And it was really cool. We spent a couple days together just doing life, and just for this very reason, to encourage, to honor, to value. And so I gave a similar message to this and to the team and said, hey, let's put this into practice. And we broke up in teams all over the house, and they went around in these encouragement circles. And all they did was they would speak life into one another. And I was walking around a little bit, and I could see, and you know what I saw all over the place? Tears. Like people that were so moved, so inspired, so encouraged. People that work together every day but never speak these words. People that felt things but never said them. If you see it, say it. They didn't do it. And so people are walking around feeling discouraged and beat up and tired, and all of a sudden they're on cloud nine ready to go tackle mountains. But during that time, I actually had brought my boys to stay with me the whole time for the first time for this staff retreat. Because I really wanted them to understand leadership. I wanted them to know how to build healthy cultures. I want to raise them up to be great leaders and great men. So hey, I want you guys to watch. I want to ask you, what are you learning and everything? What do you see that makes our staff so special? What do you see us do as leadership team to make sure that these people feel welcome, that they stay, and that they, like, what do you want? And I'm asking them all of these things because I want them to learn how to be great leaders. I'm gonna tell you something, and sometimes you can learn far more by something like that than going to school for a day or two. And so during that time, everybody went in the room, and I go, I'm gonna take my boys and we're gonna do this together. And so we sat down in a little circle in this room that the three of us were staying in, and we just said, hey, I want you to put into practice what you just learned. And so Scotty, I want you to tell Tommy things you love about him. What do you admire about him? And then Tommy, you do that. And then when you're done, the rest of you just tell me how great I am. And then I'm gonna speak it over life. And can I just tell you, like, I sat there and watched my 15-year-old speak life into my 12-year-old. And then I watched my 12-year-old, which they were punching each other a few moments before, to be completely honest, okay? And then I watched my 12-year-old speaking life into the 15-year-old. Telling what a great big brother he is and how kind he is and what a good heart he has. See, they're learning how to communicate. And my older son speaking into Thomas and what a great young man he is and why he loves to be with him even though he's younger. He's like most older brothers don't, but I love to be with you and you always do the right. And he's just speaking this life. And then it was so beautiful. I got to speak life in and they got to speak life. And we had this little encouragement circle. We probably spent 20 minutes. And can I tell you something? It was so powerful. So here's my challenge to you. All this information means nothing if you don't apply it. So here's what I want to challenge every family to do. Do an encouragement circle tonight. And gather together as husband and wife, if you're married, children if you have them. Maybe you can do this even in your business tomorrow. Grab the employees together, say, hey, we're gonna spend 20 minutes, like do something nice for them, and we're gonna maybe have lunch, and during that lunch, I'm just telling you something, it's so powerful. And here's what I want you to do. I just want you to encourage each other. Like if you increase your drive and your motivation by 30%, your success by 44%, 80% increase in marital status. In other words, if everything in the world is telling you, if you do this, it makes them better. It makes everything better. Then if you see it, let's say it. So tonight, my challenge to you is all across all of our campuses, church at home, listen to this. I'm expecting you, if you're the father of the household, to grab your family tonight at some point, and you're gonna sit in a circle. And I'm challenging you to do this and begin to start thinking about all day. You have all day to come up with a couple things. And maybe it's 3 or 4 or 5, whatever that is. And just start speaking those things into each other. Listen to this. And then don't just leave it there. Continue to do it. If you see it, just say it. And you'll watch how encouragement can transform your relationships, your business, and your family, and your marriage. Let me pray. God, thank you so much for modeling encouragement. Thank you so much for your faithfulness and your goodness. God, I know right now that there's so many of us that are just beat up and discouraged. And if we just had some people that could see it, the encouragement and the good things in us, and say it and speak potential into us, remind us of who we are in you. That God, that's what we need to get over that hump, to become who you create us to be. So God, may we be the people that encourage one another. In Jesus' name we pray.